Dredge first came onto my radar in the fall of 22. I watched a live stream of the demo, and within 5 minutes of that, I was already downloading it to play it myself. The atmosphere reeled me in, so I put it on my wish list and waited for the game to arrive. Well, now the game's here and I've already played it twice. I like it. I really like it, but it also stumbles a little bit. But we'll get to that later. If you don't want the game spoiled for you, then stop right now and go play it yourself. If you've already played it, don't care, or are not convinced yet, then stick around. I'll give you another spoiler warning when we reach the end of what the demo had to cover. With that out of the way, enjoy. On the surface, Dredge is a fishing game, but its waters are much deeper than that. It's also a psychological and cosmic horror game, with a large dose of Lovecraft and thalassophobia to boot. Dredge starts us off with a cutscene of the protagonist selling his ship to a pair of islands called the Marrow. He's going here for a job as their new fisherman. The tone of the game is set immediately. Our ship is wrecked on the rocks, but thankfully we didn't die, and it seems our belongings are alright too. We can't very well catch fish without a ship though, can we? Thankfully, the town has us covered. With our old ship now sitting at the bottom of the sea, the mayor sells us a new ship and gives us our first quest of the game, catching fish. We set sail into the local bay and get to work. This is where we're introduced to the fishing minigame, something you'll be doing a lot of in a fishing game. The fishing game here isn't too complex, it's pretty simple. You just need to press the button at the right time to reel the fish in. The type of fish you're catching might change some aspects of the minigame, but it's the same idea. Hit the button at the right time. Some might find this simplistic, and I'd agree, it is. But frankly, it's fine. If it worked like Stardew Valley's fishing game, it might be a little more engaging, but it also could be a nuisance to do for hours. Some people hate that minigame, others love it. Some like me are just indifferent to it. I'm indifferent to this one too. It doesn't really bother me that it's simple. If you hate fishing minigames, it goes without saying this game doesn't have much to offer you. This is a fishing game after all. If you direct your attention to the right side of your screen, you'll see the other large portion of this game that's not fishing. Can you guess? That's right. Resident Evil 4 is a attaché case, living rent-free in our heads since 2005. For what's just inventory management, it sure has had a lasting effect on gaming. God, I remember when people were upset that they got rid of it in Resident Evil 5. Anyway, after catching your fish, you'll find them to be of different shapes and sizes, and then you must fill your boat with them. You'll have to navigate around your other equipment that you need on board too. At first, this is a simple task. Your tiny boat's catching tiny fish. But things will progress, and you'll be catching bigger fish, and port planning will cause you to release a fish or two. Fish aren't the only thing you'll be bringing on board, but we'll get to that later. After you haul some fish and pay back the loan you owe on your new ship, things start to open up a little more. You're introduced to upgrading materials, used to unlock new equipment for your ship. Fishing rods, fishing nets, new boat engines, crab pots. The fishmonger will also start to give you special orders that customers want. These orders will force you to go out at night to fish, as many of them are only active from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is pretty common in games where you go fishing. The aforementioned Stardew Valley does this as well. Even Animal Crossing's fishing activity asks you to go out at night to fish. But night isn't scary in those games. The thing is, in Dredge, well, you've been warned about going out at night. But hey, you have a job to do, right? Things don't seem that bad out here. It's a little weird, but you can manage, right? But then you hear something. You're just tired. Nothing was really there. Well, that's when it starts to happen. You start finding these fish. Something's wrong with them. Something's very wrong with them. But maybe it's fine, right? I mean, they do sell for double, hell, more than double of what the normal fish is worth, right? So maybe everything will be okay. A strange man now asks to speak with you. He seems to know something that's going on. Meeting with him on his private island, you unlock the dredging equipment. He wants us to locate these strange artifacts. Something about this guy is definitely not right, But he did give us dredging equipment, which we can use to find treasure to sell, and also upgrading materials for our boat. These items must be managed in our inventory as well. No one in town seems to know who this guy is. In fact, they say that place is abandoned. The few people you can talk to on the Marrow Islands are friendly with you, but the lighthouse keeper is a little distant. It's not that she hates you, she's just not very forthcoming. The mayor tells you that the last fisherman was unreliable, started acting mad, and one day sailed off never to be seen again. When you ask around both of the islands, it seems as though the former mayor of Little Marrow went mad and was also never seen again. Huh. People seem to not want to talk about it at all. Let's just get back to helping the collector. Taking it back to the collector, he reads from his creepy book and does something to you. We're now asked to find more artifacts for him. He'll reward us each time with more powers that he reads from his book. If what I've said is enough to sell you on the game, now is your time to sail off. This is where the demo ends more or less, and I've left a couple of things out just so you can discover it for your own. From this point forward though, it will be spoilers. If the price of the game scares you a little bit, then I understand, you can wait for a sale, or just not play it at all. My first run of the game was 15 hours long. 11 of those were for the story, and the rest was doing side quests and just searching for fish. I ended up getting a dopamine rush from collecting as many fish as I could to fill out the encyclopedia. Alright, are they gone? I sure hope they don't use the foghorn to communicate with the other ships out there. My first time playing the demo, I got near one thinking I could say hello. Little did I know I was falling for a trap. The ship was just a trick, an illusion used by a demonic anglerfish to lure me in. It really freaked me out the first time, and the second time, and the third time. That foghorn droning its eerie horn and how persistent it was, getting closer and closer. They'll chase you down till you reach a safe and well-lit area, or you manage to outrun them. They're not the only thing out there trying to trick you. You really need to keep your guard up. Once you've given the key to the collector, the game really starts to open up. Nothing was stopping you from going out and exploring till now, but you really had no reason to leave the Marrow. Your boat was really slow, and your fishing equipment wasn't very good yet. Once you start exploring, you'll be catching new fish and meeting new people. This is where you're going to meet the kindest character in the game, the traveling merchant. Most of the people you meet in this game are polite, professional, depressed, insane, or creepy. The merchant, however, seems cheerful. Some of these people show concern for the player if his sanity is too low or if his ship is beat up. The merchant, her concern seems a bit deeper. Maybe it's a kinship of sailors. When you come into a port with a damaged ship, she's either worried about you or scolds you for how you're taking care of it. I might be reading into it too much, but I have one example that's lingered in my mind the rest of the time I played. Pretty far into my first playthrough of the game, I docked at one of the ports after sailing through a really dangerous area. My sanity was the lowest it could possibly get, and my ship had took a savage beating. When I talked to her for repairs, she showed concern for my well-being. She told me seeing my ship come into port, knowing I'm alive, makes her smile. I wonder if those lines would have the same impact on me if I had just barely survived my trek back to dock. No one else really talks to you this way. This is the only character I've seen that shows genuine concern for your well-being, but for whatever reason, that one line of dialogue really had an effect on me. It's not going to change my worldview or anything silly like that, but it did stay with me the whole entire game, and I did try and take better care of my ship from that point forward. Back to exploring. The collector wants us to find 4 more artifacts, and we happen to have 4 locations to visit. This is the main quest. You can do it as quickly as you wish. While searching for these artifacts, you'll have to do side quests in the local area to help the people there. I'll try not to spend too much time on what these quests are since I don't want to spoil every little thing, and we'll be here forever if I do that. Think of this as the Cliff Notes version. Speaking of cliffs, our first stop is in the Gale Cliffs, a former whaling town. The people here have mostly left after the whaling stopped. An earthquake has also destroyed a majority of the city. The town also has constant cyclones in its waters. Things might not be perfect at the Marrow, but things are looking dire here. To get the first artifact, we need some explosives. But before we can do that, we have to help these 2 old brothers reunite after decades away from each other. Stellar Bastion was a vacation resort at one point in time. This coral reef area is filled with bioluminescent life, which makes it very pretty at nighttime, even with the nightmares all around. It seems the scientist is the lone survivor after an attack here. Well, lone human survivor at least. After helping her with some research and getting her lab equipment back online, we'll find our way out of here. But not before we learn something. She's doing a study on the local fish, and her findings are, well, not very good. I don't think we really needed her study to tell us this, but here we go. The third, and also my favorite area, is the Twisted Strand. The Twisted Strand is a swampy forest of fog and death. There are creatures here called Mindsuckers. When they spot you, they chase you down and drive you absolutely insane. But don't worry, their sight is based on movement. This place is creepy. It's also filled with a lot of downed biplanes. You also meet the only resident here, a pilot. All his men have died, leaving him alone. Surprisingly, he stayed sane this entire time. After the player helps kill all the mine lurkers, we get the third artifact. The final artifact is located at the ruins of an ancient civilization, destroyed by a volcano long ago. Or so they say. Helping the fanatic light the flames feels wrong. Like I know I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, and the truth is you don't have to help him at all. But if I want that artifact, I'm gonna just have to play along and do what he says. Or, you can skip this entirely. That's right, you don't need to get this last artifact. Hidden on a small island behind the Gale Cliffs is where I happened to see a campfire burning. I went to investigate, and before me was the old mayor of the Marrows. He warns us about the book and how it must be thrown back. Throw it all back. The people of the Marrows said that this is what he was crying out all those years ago too. Throw it back. Throw it all back. We're pointed to the lighthouse keeper. She knows the truth. Well, I mean, no shit, it's clear she knew something from the start, she just wasn't telling us. She tells us we must throw the book back. Wait, what book? You mean the book the collector has? Well, I guess we should pay him a visit. Holy shit, wait. So, if you were paying attention during the opening, you'd see a book and pair of glasses sitting in front of us. It's unmistakably the same ones that the collector has, so it makes it very clear we were the collector the entire time. The collector says that he's the fisherman's breathless self. I'm unsure if this breathless self is supposed to be your soul or if it's some sort of Carl Jung ego versus shadow type deal. I've glossed over something. There are these messages that you find in bottles around the ocean. They involve you or your old ship. We know that the fisherman opened up a casket found in the sea, and something evil poured from it. The fisherman's wife, who was on board at the time, was likely killed by this, and the former mayor, who was also on board at the time, was driven insane by what he saw. The guilt of this event ate at the fisherman until he begged his breathless self, the collector, to make him forget. It's unclear how much time has gone by. The timeline is a little murky. The wife's diary pages are dated to 1927. The collector says he's been on this island for 20 years. Clearly this has some deeper meaning since the collector is intangible. One of the wife's diary pages speaks of the fisherman gaining control of an estate after his mother's passing. This manor being that estate. This is likely why the collector would want the fisherman to come here. Even if he's forgotten everything about his past, this place does hold some meaning to him, even on a subconscious level. The only reason this matters to me is because I find it unclear what the gap is from the time the casket was opened to the time the fisherman begged for his memories to be taken away and forget everything. The fishmonger says he's surprised that they found a new fisherman so fast, and the way he talks about the job being really important to the area tells me that no one in the Marrows would last very long without a fisherman. Ergo, they couldn't last 20 years without one. It's also possible that the last fisherman that left before the player's arrival has nothing to do with the collector or you, the new fisherman. That the fog here just drives people crazy, but that just seems way too simple. It doesn't make sense. The way the mayor talks about the last fisherman, his MO fits exactly what the collector wants. And once again, since those two are one and the same, it has to be us. We had to have been the last fisherman. The lighthouse keeper and the crazy mayor are the only ones who seem to recognize you. No one else seems to realize that you're the same person as before. I don't understand why. Maybe it's magic or something. And I'm not even saying that's a bullshit answer. We're dealing with Lovecraftian horrors beyond our imagination. Magic making people forget what you looked like is definitely possible. I know horror works better when it's shrouded in mystery, but I don't think this is one of those times. I also realize how confusing it is that I keep using second and third person pronouns. I keep referring to the current fisherman as the fisherman from the past, but also referring to him as you, implying you watching the video, you the player. Am I even making sense anymore? Have I just been staring into the abyss of my own footage too much? And now I'm just rambling like a madman, typing this at my keyboard, and now I'm even recording it too, aware of what I'm doing? I'm not even trying to be meta, I think I've just lost my mind or something. Anyway. So now that you know the truth, you're given two options. You can keep working with the collector and get that last artifact, or you could do something else. If you skip over that last artifact and realize that the collector is just using you to awaken something terrible, you can follow the lighthouse keeper's advice. That book that's brought so much pain and sorrow, toss it back to the sea. You've already broken the spell and you remember it all. You've had the book. You've always had the book. Now it's time to throw it back. I'm sorry, merchant. You'll never see my ship again. The town of Great Marrow sits peacefully. It seems as though the nightmare is finally over. It's very clear to me someone on the dev team really liked the in-water ending of Silent Hill 2. The fisherman remembered everything, and feeling guilty, he's willing to give his life to save everyone else. Even if he didn't mean to do it, or if he's just come to terms with the fact that his wife is gone forever and he can't be the one to play God. I don't really hate this ending, but I don't love it either. I feel like as the player, I didn't learn enough about the wife to care. I need to be invested to care. We read a few things about the wife, and we know next to nothing about who the fisherman was before this. It really does feel like something's missing. Something to make a better connection. I do have some speculation about this that I'll get into near the end of the video. But we do have one more ending to cover. What if we gazed into the abyss instead? What if you helped the collector? Or should I say, what if you helped yourself? Well, you can lead yourself to your own doom, and go back to the place where it all happened, where you lost her. The spot where it all went wrong. We see the Greater Marrow lay in ruins, as this nightmare you unleashed will now never end. You were tricked, and you were used, and now everyone is doomed. If only you had let go and left this place like the Lighthouse Keeper said. Out of the two endings, this is not the outcome I'd like, but it does feel more in line with what Lovecraft is about, doesn't it? My issue is the same here though. We don't have enough information about either the fisherman or his wife to be heavily invested. I might be interested in seeing how the story plays out, but I'm not invested in the characters. Does that even make sense? Am I contradicting myself? Horror is a very subjective subject. Someone with thalassophobia will likely be on edge the entire game, but I don't have that problem. Truth be told, I actually like boats, and I've never really had a fear of the ocean. Yeah, the open sea can be scary at night, but so are subways. Silent Hill 3's subway segment keeps me on edge since I find subways to be unnerving. Ironically, I actually really love that game. What I'm getting at is the horror in this game was either ineffective on me, or if it was scary, it wore out its welcome after a couple of hours. The mimic boats lost their effect after you get used to them, and the phantom boats you see are just that, phantoms. While I found all the monsters on each island you visit creepy, they're all a one-trick pony. You can kill the ones in the swamp, so once they're all gone, that place really loses its bite. It doesn't take away from how much I like that area, but man do I just go full steam ahead in here once I know there's no threat any longer. The serpent at the Gale Cliffs, while freaky looking, is a joke once your boat can go faster than 60 knots. It can still annoy you sometimes, but I wouldn't say it scares me. The giant terrifying creature in the Stellar Bastion will leave you alone if you don't go near it. I was genuinely worried to sail under this thing on both of my playthroughs, but I had to test something. I was under the impression that if I sailed under this thing without the generator scaring it off, it would kill me immediately. Truth be told, you can go right over this thing if your boat's quick enough, and it can't even hurt you. It doesn't even bother to hurt you. And if you do stop under it, all it does is hit you with its tentacles. It takes a couple of hits to kill you too, so it's not like this thing was even a threat. It really did take away from how creepy I found it once I realized this thing could barely hurt me. Sadly, most of the time I forgot I was playing a horror game. Maybe you found this game scary beginning to end, and if you did, that's great, I'm happy for you. I wish I could join. Nighttime fishing at first puts you on edge, but really quickly you learn that it's not even that much of a big deal. By the time you get to the Gale Cliffs, you're so used to it that you don't even think about it. The sanity thing doesn't even affect you that much. You go to sleep for a couple hours, take a little nap, and then you could go back to fishing no problem. However, one thing got me good. One thing got me real good. Under normal circumstances, I've never seen the Leviathan pop out of the water like this. This was the only time I've ever seen it happen also. It really had me thinking this could happen at any moment in deep waters, that the Leviathan could just pop out of the water and eat me. Way earlier in the game, I had already met someone that told me that a Leviathan was chasing him. I thought the poor bastard was just losing his mind. The only sure way I know to make the Leviathan appear is to try and sail out of bounds. Perhaps in normal gameplay it never attacks you, and maybe the devs thought it'd be unfair if it did, but god damn. I've noticed some people mention that they wish they had more customization options for their boat and could upgrade it more. I do wish there were more upgrading options for your boat. The upgrading tree can be finished long before you even get to the third area of the game, and upgrading materials are everywhere. By the time my ship was fully upgraded, I was just tossing the stuff away to save room and ignoring it whenever I found it in the water. As for customizing my boat, I can take it or leave it. I don't really care. I don't really care if I can color swap my boat or not. It's fine the way it is. I do wish that things like the lights and fishing lines you installed would show up on the boat. It only really does this with the dredging equipment and the net. As more time goes on, I see this as a real sticking point for some people. They really want to be able to customize every little thing. I don't have that problem really. I don't think every single game needs me to customize every little thing about my character or my car or my boat. You get what I mean. Some nets and rods feel useless. They take up too much space and are not worth the investment. I prefer a setup where all my rods and spools can catch all fish types, and my net is really there for more passive reasons, and I can switch it out depending on which area I'm going to. This larger net allows me to fish for types of fish I couldn't get with the net otherwise, but I've never been in a situation where I really needed it. If I want to catch the deep sea fish, the oceanic fish, I'll just use my rod. I've had several moments where I wish I had the correct rods, and rarely had moments where I wish I had the correct net. Crab pots are a great way to make quick money, but sadly the ones you unlock are pretty much useless. You can find the best crab pot in the game at the Gale Cliffs, which is the first area you go to. All you need to do is sacrifice a few crabs to the altar, and you get the crab pot. This pot takes forever to break and can hold loads of crabs. You could get the larger pots too that you unlock and use them all over the area in tandem with this free one you get, but honestly I think it's overkill. It's already so easy to make money that one pot is good enough. But hey, if you want to be crab people, be my guest.
We're crab people now.
We're crab people now?
Yes!
Of all the quests in the game, only 4 of them are time sensitive, and rather annoyingly, the game never tells you this. The thing is, Dredge's quests can't be failed, at least not in the traditional sense of failing a quest. While technically they can be failed in the sense that you're not going to get a reward for completing it, the game does count the quest as completed no matter what. I feel like I'm complaining too much now. Let's switch to what I enjoyed. I like the art style for the most part. I like how all the fish look, both the real versions and their nightmarish evil looking ones. I haven't enjoyed sailing this much in a video game since Wind Waker. I'd call the sailing in Wind Waker cozy. In this game, it's more like sailing through Toluca Lake in Silent Hill 2. The boat in this game feels like a boat. It turns and responds like a boat should. I played with a mouse and keyboard and found it to be responsive. The music in this game is great from start to end. It really sets the mood, that being either the sailing music or the port music or just the ambient tracks. Some of the tracks are spooky, but others feel more like sea shanties. It fits the setting like a glove. Aside from a couple of tracks off of Voltaire's To the Bottom of the Sea, I've never really gotten into that kind of shanty music. Does Mastodon's Leviathan count as, like, sea music? Probably not, but I do like that album a lot, and I thought about it quite a few times while working on this video. So that's Dredge. I feel like I did a lot of complaining in this video, but I really want to make it clear that I do like this game. Some aspects feel rushed. I wish you could interact with more characters and have more to say to the ones that exist. A lot of them just stop mattering after you've done their 1 or 2 quests. I have a sinking suspicion that aspects of this game were rushed by the publisher to get it out on time. I can't prove this, I just feel that way. I love games made by small dev teams, and they should really be proud of the work they did. This game is fun, it's creepy, it has a really good soundtrack. I want to see them improve and make even better games in the future. As of right now, this game is too new to know if they'll do any DLC, and oh god, I didn't even cover that, did I? Shit. So this should probably have been in the negative section, but this game does have Day 1 DLC, and that's a bit of a shame. It's for items that are completely useless. You won't need them after the first 2 hours of the game. I can't prove this is something the publishers probably wanted that the developers didn't. That's just my gut. That's been the track record so far of how this usually works. Just felt like I should let you know that this game does have that. I know some people hate Day 1 DLC to the point where they won't buy a game that has it. So I felt like I was obligated to mention it. I know I'm like a tiny channel, no one really gives a shit who I am. I wouldn't feel right to not mention it. This video's gone on too long already, so I'll just leave it here. I'll end it now. Goodbye, have a good time, take care.